Welcome to A Second Helping with Allison Bartow, a wedding photography podcast with a focus on second shooting. Welcome back to another episode of Save, Delete, Dodge, and Burn, a wedding recap. So today it is Saturday morning. It is 11:20. I am on my way to a wedding in Fleetwood, PA. I am shooting with Pat, who I have shot with, I want to say 8 or 10 times approximately over the past decade. So he was the first photographer that I started second shooting with. There's a few Corvettes flying by on the turnpike right now. So he asked me to second shoot this wedding a few months ago, just said in Fleetwood, and I said sure. So we got on a call Tuesday night with the bride and the groom. He is one of the few photographers that will ask me to hop on a call. It's not really a consult call because it's already booked and scheduled. It's just kind of like last minute prep review. And he had given me just a couple details beforehand, but we went through it. Because I'm familiar with him, I feel like I can speak up and ask a few questions when we're talking to the bride and groom. So he'd given me some times, and then she was giving me some times as well, and I was writing them down. And the venue is the groom's parents' house, so they're having about 110 guests. Nice outdoor wedding, and they said, I think, ceremony time at 2:30, and then Pat had said reception time at like 5, and so it seemed like a big stretch that there would be that much time when everything's happening at one location and it's a backyard. So after we talked through a few things, I went back and asked a couple of questions, and it turned out that the reception was actually starting at 4. So it was a little bit of a big deal because Pat loves portraits and lots of options for portraits. So luckily we were able to clarify that. So we were able to tighten up the timeline a little bit. They have 2 dogs that are going to be in some of the pictures. I guess one might be a little bit more well-behaved than the other one. So I voted to have them in the pictures and then let them go back inside, just so that we could knock them out and know that we were completed with those. Bridal party, I think it was 6 and 6. I think she has 2 guys on her side, and then he has all guys on his side. Family officiant doing the ceremony. They said no more than 30 minutes, and I said, I always ask because if someone says it's going to be 10 minutes, it's going to be super, super fast because it's normally faster than that. So they said 30. I'm expecting it might be 15 or 20 unless he really goes off script. The other thing, it is June, and on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, we started seeing online about the sky getting cloudy and foggy and orange and yellow, and people could smell like campfires, and there were large Canadian forest fires, and that's been making its way down to us. So during the week, we were tracking that, and on our air quality, it had reached like unhealthy, very unhealthy, up to hazardous. I got a little bit nervous that today might still have those smoke issues, but luckily it's blown by. But it was, I don't know how people were outside for like the day and a half that it was really bad. I was outside very little, and I thought I could feel it in my lungs, but I also said that could have been psychosomatic, but I definitely felt it in my eyes. So I got a little nervous because I was like, this is mostly going to be an outdoor day, and that would be terrible. But we look like we're in good shape. Weather seems like it's going to be good. It looks like it might be like 78, 79. So that should be nice. I know I get really hot once I start shooting, so I'll be sweaty. And she did say that she has silk flowers, which always breaks my heart. I know it's just personal preference, and it may sound snobby, but having owned a flower shop, I just love beautiful, fresh flowers. And honestly, my first thought then is like, oh, backyard wedding, silk flowers, they're on a budget, that's fine, and it's not going to be this big, glamorous, over the top, like all this stuff. So my honest reaction is always like a little bit of disappointment, but then I immediately think about, well, first of all, I think people should spend what they're comfortable spending, obviously. don't stretch anything as a bride and groom and, go bankrupt on a wedding, for sure. It's about the day and the people and the memories, just to be clear on that. But once I was thinking about it, what I get excited about is that it is typically simpler, and I'm excited to be able to just really focus on making beautiful photographs all in one location. I'm not going to have any flash setup going on. I'm not going to be there for the reception portion. I'm only scheduled to shoot for about 4 or 5 hours. So I brought fewer lenses. I actually switched over to my smaller Navigator rolling bag, like that half size one. So I think I still have 6 lenses with me. 2 bodies, 6 lenses. I did bring 2 flashes just in case, because if you're bringing one, why not bring 2? But just in case it's like really dark in the house where they're getting ready. But I'm excited to kind of just focus on making photos and being in like one small area, not running all over the place. We'll see. So I'm excited for a good day. I'm hoping to create some creative images. So there'll probably be some challenges being indoors at someone's house. It is nice doing prep there because then you can incorporate things that are meaningful to the family. We're going to have more people there than just the dudes in a hotel suite. So, we're going to have all the family there, everyone running around getting ready, which I like that hustle and bustle and all the craziness that's going on. And I'll also get to meet some of the family beforehand. Normally, I'm just with the guys, and then I'm slowly meeting like the moms later on throughout the day. But I think in my notes I have that both moms are getting ready there. So it sounds like most of the parents will be there, and other people are going to be coming there early. So that's it. I will check in afterwards, but I'm pretty excited, and we should be having a fantastic day. Okay, I am in the car on the turnpike headed home at 5 o'clock. I left at like 4:45 from the wedding. So it went well. Beautiful weather, nice breezes all throughout the day. No Canadian campfire smoke in the air. Sorry, that wasn't a campfire. That was just a forest fire that Canada suffered. So the couple was very nice, and they seemed very relieved once we got through the ceremony. So I got to the groom's parents' house, about half an hour before I was supposed to get there. And man, I am such a baby about cars and parking. I drive up and right away I'm like, oh gosh, of course it's going to be like yard parking. And I panic because I never want to be parked in anywhere because I have control issues. So I drove past and up, and then I found a good spot. So I was able to back in, right, accessible, but there was no way anybody could park me in. So I felt better. I could see people out on the deck. So it's just a modest little single family detached house with a fair amount of acreage there, and they're next to a cornfield. So I go up so it's a house with a deck off the back, porch/deck, and then a pool next to that. And this family is an entertaining family. So it's that house everyone loved to hang out in high school, that just love to party, the bar in the basement, all the liquor bottles. The deck has all the different seating areas. You can tell that they've just kept adding on seating areas, and there's all sorts of outdoor lighting. You can tell they must just live out there all summer long and just love it. They have a bar outside, a permanent bar built on the deck with a roof over it, a grill's built in there. I think there was another refrigerator out there. So they like to have a good time. And it was kind of nice because it just reminded me of being younger and being at houses like that. But it also makes me stressed out a little bit, and then I have to remind myself that I'm not in charge of anything, and that's not my business to worry about anything, because you can just see the stress of putting on a wedding. They had a big tent in the backyard, they had all the chairs set up, but it's hard when you're hosting a party and also hosting a wedding rather, and also trying to get ready to be in a wedding and be the parents of the groom. So the groomsmen were all dressed when I got there. They were all hanging out on the deck. And I will say that I don't run into too many people anymore in my life that are vaping. Maybe they are, maybe I'm just not hanging out with them when they are vaping, but I feel like there's always like 1 to 2 at a wedding. I'm like, oh, there's the vapor. Everyone at this wedding smoked cigarettes. There were vapors too, but like a lot of cigarettes. And I was like, man, I feel like I never see smokers in the wild anymore. So a lot of smokers. And they were just all hanging out. Everyone was like in a good mood. They weren't, cranky about anything, but they were like full vests on and everything sitting outside. I was there for a little bit before I even met the groom. He wasn't out there, so I did like a quick lap around the property just to get the lay of the land and get some of the detail shots before people came through. And then I met him, and you could tell he was nice, but he was also like going in a million different directions trying to handle stuff. His mom was sitting out on the deck having her hair done, and she was nice. But it was, it wasn't fun. It was kind of funny, but it was also a little nerve-wracking when he came out and he was like, Mom, the caterers are here and they're asking all these questions. Can you just quarterback this for me? And she looks up at him and she's like, well, I'm getting my hair done. She was like halfway through getting an updo. And like part of me just instantly gets stressed out. And I'm like, I can't, like, nothing for me to do. So he was just like kind of running around, and it's hard. Like everyone's coming up like, do we have a table to go here? Where is this? So-and-so needs a screwdriver. The bartender was setting up. The bartender I loved. The bartender was a guy named Frank. And this is a move right here. He is a longtime family friend and a longtime bartender. I mean, just the perfect bartender. And they hired him, or he agreed to tend bar for the wedding. So this is what I loved. Everyone else is just like hanging out, getting ready, waiting. It is 2 hours before the ceremony, and he is there like the ultimate professional. He is cutting all of his garnishes. He's prepping all of his, the urns, the, beverage dispensers, just getting everything ready. He was making signature cocktails. I mean, he was fabulous. So I loved him. But at the same time, like, people need cutting boards, they need knives. Like, it's hard. You're not a country club, and yet everybody needs something from you, and you're trying to get ready. So the one dog, Ivy, was outside. Oh, hold on. We have rumble strips. So the one dog, Ivy, is outside. Ivy is this short, little, chunky, never missed a meal sweetheart who's not quite sure what's going on. So she's moving around. So they talk about Igor. Igor is like the beast from the Sandlot. Like, you keep hearing about him, and he's like not far away, but you don't see him. But it's like everyone gets a little nervous when they're like talking about Igor. They're like, Igor's not happy, and Igor this, and we got to walk by the room where Igor is. And I'm just like, oh my God, Igor. And I'm thinking he's supposed to be in pictures. And I feel like the groom is nervous about Igor. So everyone's getting ready. I'll have to go through the pictures because there's so many just things that happened that I have forgotten. So I just focused on getting photojournalistic, candid photos. I really wasn't doing any like group, because people were doing stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to tell the story of this day and go from there. So that's what I did. I have some good pictures there. It was really bright sunlight. So they did, of course, have like a little tented area, a permanent tent on their party deck, which everyone was hanging out under, which was also nice because then it kept people out of the sun that were waiting. And then there were a few other things, but like they set up the table for the charcuterie, and then somehow it just ended up with a bunch of liquor bottles on it. So like the caterers had to keep coming over and saying they needed space for this and space for that. And it's hard because it's like everyone's in charge, but no one's in charge. So finally they had to come over and they're like, we need this table. We need it to be cleared off. Is there a tablecloth? So, and everyone pitched in and helped, but it's a lot. The bride got there a little bit behind schedule. She seemed a little bit nervous because everybody was like hanging out, like the guests that had showed up early were all hanging out like on the deck. So they had to get them all moved up to the ceremony area because she didn't want people to see her ahead of time. And then we had to get the groom inside. And then it was that constant game of, she's here, he's there, but like they're, you know, it's his house and they're trying to set up a party. So that was a little bit stressful. She was nervous about him seeing her. We did a first look with the bride and her dad, and then we just did a first touch with the bride and groom, which I think that's the first time I've ever done that. So the first look with her dad was like the first emotional moment during the day. And also he reminded me so much of my dad, whom I don't have anymore. Just so much about him, like his hair, his smile, his nose. He was just a sweet guy. But he really teared up when they did the first look, and it was very sweet. And then he was telling me afterwards that it was not the first time, but like for some reason this time really hit home how much his daughter looked like his mom. And he said, like someone else had said it at like her graduation, and he was like, yeah, she does. But this time he said it just really hit him. So he was super emotional, which was, you know, nice to see. I will say it was challenging at their property to find spots to take photos. It was a lot of open sun. There wasn't very much privacy. We had very few options for where to do the first look. And then we needed like a corner. We did the corner of the house for this first touch with the bride and groom. But like you had to have him on the one side, because if she was on the other side, then everybody that was sitting in the chairs would have seen. So it's just a lot of that maneuvering that you don't have to deal with when it's at a venue that typically hosts weddings, because all of that you kind of take for granted, but it's all set up to flow in the right way. So it was fine. It all worked out. And then what did we do from there? We went right to this ceremony shortly thereafter. Family officiant and DJ, and he's done this before. I don't know if he does this as a job or part-time, but he was obviously like a DJ that did this and knew what he was doing. I did panic during the ceremony because the bride and groom and the dad walked her down the aisle, and then the three of them were standing there, and the officiant started the service, and he was like, who takes, and it seemed longer than normal, and I panicked, and the dad was standing in the middle, and I was like, how far into this wedding are we going to go with the three of them standing up there? And part of me was like, should I say something to him? Like, because it's just, I get nervous when it's this homegrown affair, because you just don't know who doesn't know what they're doing. But then he's got to the point where he was like, and who gives her away? And then he said, you know, her mother and I. But I did panic for a second. I think the photos from there are fine. I moved around. The other thing, I don't think I mentioned this in my earlier lead-in, is that they had a good family friend doing video for them. So I think she was doing it for free. She wants to learn all of that. She was a very, very sweet girl. Numerous times she said, please let me know if I'm in your way. Let me know where you want me to stand. Like, she was so sweet. However, I am a super helpful person. I love helping people. I love teaching people. I love having conversations about things. It's not the best time to do that during a wedding. Like, I talked about it on a recap recently where I said, like, I appreciate when you're getting a little bit of feedback from the main photographer. But as sweet as this girl was, I'm the second for Pat. So I'm trying to watch him to make sure I'm not in his way and that I'm getting complimentary shots to what he's doing. I don't have the bandwidth to then tell her where she should be standing or what she should be doing. So I felt a little bit bad. I was super nice to her, but I wasn't like directing her. I don't know if she ever got in Pat's way. I'm used to just moving around so much because I'm not the priority, so I just try to like keep it moving. And so that I did, like, I kind of felt bad, but then I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, it is what it is. She's gonna get, you know, her best footage, and it'll be fine. The bride and groom on the call earlier in the week had told us, and they even said, like, just if she's in your way, let her know. Like, they got it. They, you know, so that should be fine. But like I said, part of me felt a little bit bad. And then we did family portraits Those were good. People weren't complaining about the heat or anything. That was fine. They wanted a couple of like the corny shots where it's like, oh, I want things they'd seen on Pinterest. So I typically just will shoot from the side, whatever they're doing. I don't kind of engage in it, if you will. But that's what they wanted, so Pat got it. That was fine. And then most people joined cocktail hour. We had like 10 or 15 minutes for her to get bustled. So I followed her in to get bustled because I feel like that's just a good time to get some natural shots where she's relaxed and not around a million people. And it's never easy, and there's always like drama around it. So the maid of honor was fantastic. I mean, MVP. She was great leading up to it, but she's in there, she's bustling her. The bride she wanted to switch her wedding band and the rings so that they were in the right order. She couldn't get her rings off, so she was getting a little bit nervous about that. And the mother of the groom comes in and is like, we don't have anything to drink. And the groom was there as well, and he was like, what, Mom, what? And she was like, she was saying that they were out of water and soda and out of everything to drink. And he was like, Mom, no. He was like, it's up at the tent. And she was like, no, they drank everything up at the tent. And the bride's like, already? And she was like, yeah, it's all gone. There's nothing to drink. And the groom was like, Mom, just stop it. You know what, don't talk about it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about any problems. Like, just go. And she kept talking about it. And then he like got her to leave. And he was really good. He like told the bride, he's like, do not worry about it. It'll be fine. And she was like, it's not even 4 o'clock. We haven't started the reception. How are we out of alcohol? Like, how are we out of beverages? Meanwhile, I was standing inside in their basement bar that is like wall-to-wall liquor. So I was like, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, I mean, it's not really completely out of liquor, but also it's 3:45 on a Saturday. Like, and they were near like a beer distributor and other stuff. So I wasn't even panicking. But I get it that she was. It's also nerve-wracking because it's like you planned for, you know, so much alcohol for all these people, and it seems like you were off by a lot. So it's nerve-wracking. And so she was panicking, and the maid of honor, again, was fantastic. And she was like, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. We've got plenty of time, blah, blah, blah. So they kind of calmed the bride down, which is what you should do. And again, I go back to what I've said before. Just don't come to people with problems. Don't come to people with problems that can't be solved. And also, don't come to people with problems that can also easily be solved that they don't need to be worrying about. And that would be alcohol on a bride's wedding day. She shouldn't be the one solving that problem. It's an easy fix. So they were kind of calming down about that, but then the bride couldn't get her rings off. And I know what it's like to just get fixated on something that doesn't have to be done now, but you just want it done now and your brain's stuck. So the brother-in-law came in and she was like, I need Windex. The jeweler told me I could use Windex, so I want Windex. So he went and he was so sweet. He came back with Windex and like a general purpose cleaner for her, and she was able to get her rings off and switch those. But it was also a reminder to me that I can't ask them to take the rings off to get like any detail shots because it was an ordeal and I didn't want to stress her out. So always have to be mindful of those things and just use common sense. The bustling, oh my God, I hate the bustling. I don't know why it has to be this hard. A good invention would be making something that makes it easier to bustle. But the maid of honor like didn't complain once, and she was just working away. The bride and groom, their cake was there. They had like a naked cake with some fake succulents. And they loved the cake. They were really excited about it. The flavors sounded really good. I was happy they loved the cake. They were smart. They kept it inside so it wasn't out in the tent melting. And then I think the bride's mom came in, and then they're like, Mom, get outside. And she was like, no, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm going to go to the bathroom in here, and then I need to do something else. And they were just like, you got to get out. And then some other drunk aunt came in, and she's just like chatting away. And it's the hard thing when you're at a house. Like, people just are going wherever they want, and it can be nerve-wracking. So that was going on. And then I think that was it for that. Like, we were only a little bit behind for introductions. They did that first dance. The dance floor in the tent was very small. So you have those dance floor squares. I want to say they're 3x3, and they only had 3x3 of those. So the dance floor was maybe 9x9, and it was on an angle. It was because it was a hill. It was in a backyard. So it was pretty tight shooting the first dances and then the speeches, bane of my existence. So the speakers stood a little bit too far away from the bride and groom, and it was just a tougher shot. Something else I did, I got there, I had taken my smaller bag, I assessed the situation, and I was like, I'm not going to carry both of these bags around all night. I was like, I'm not going to use these flashes. My car was super close, which we all know that I love. And so I picked which lenses I wanted, and then I just put the other bag in the car. So I was really walking around with just my messenger bag, my 2 cameras, and then I think I had 4 lenses total on my person. And that was perfect. And it was really nice to just be a little bit more nimble and flexible. I hate my 24 to 70 f4. I don't know if I would like it better if it were the 2.8. Everybody else loves it. I don't like it. It should be great because it's versatile. I put it on, I'm like, I'm going to use it, and then I don't like it. I preferred using my 35 and my 85. The one weird thing is I never put my 50 on. I think maybe because I like the 50 because it's also a macro, and there just wasn't anything that I wanted macro shots of. It was in my bag the whole time. I just never used it. For the ceremony, I think I did go 24 to 70 and 70 to 200 so that I could get the wide shot from the back and just have that flexibility. But then as soon as it was over, I took it off. So there was that. And then I did make a point to try to get some like reflection shots, like with the mirror and stuff like that. I was looking for more creative shots. There weren't a ton. But I was more mindful of it this time. And I realized something else. Pat doesn't really do posing. And it made me realize that might be part of the reason why I had never thought about it so much, because for the first few years I shot with him and I'm used to how he does like the portraits, but they're all camera aware. And I didn't realize it until today because I kept thinking like, oh, are we going to go someplace else or are we going to do more? And then I was like, oh wait, he had flashes set up so they had nice, really even light outside. But I don't know why it took that long to dawn on me. I guess because he knows how to light them and he has like a whole setup going on and he's in control of these portraits and getting people moving in and out, that somehow it just didn't dawn on me that there wasn't a ton of posing. Now that I've worked with a lot of different photographers and it's an area that I'm working on, I really pay attention to how other people pose people. So that was a realization today. Yeah, and then I was free to go right after introductions, first dances, and toasts. So I'm going to go through the pictures later and see. I shot everything manual and a lot of storytelling images, but that was that. All right, I'll check in later. I am back after reviewing the photos. I took 1,400 photos over 4 hours, so that came out to $350 an hour, which is more than I was expecting it to be because there was no reception dancing, but perhaps that's all of the first dances. So looking back over everything, the save, what went well, I love when we're just dealing with one location because you just get there, get set up. So that made it really easy. The weather was fantastic. We also didn't have the Canadian forest fire smoke. The people were very nice. There wasn't anybody that was problematic for us as the photographers. I liked having one bag and just being my messenger bag that I was able to carry, so I didn't have to worry about where I was setting my roller bag down and going back for it and is it out of the way, that kind of thing. Also, I worked on trying to streamline the focusing situation. So I did more of just focus and recompose. And I feel like that went smoother. So I'm going to continue working on that. And then just messing around with which focus modes. And I feel like with all of the groomsmen hanging out on that deck for a long time, that was a good chance to kind of work with the different focusing modes. And also the maid of honor was fantastic. So that went really well. Things that didn't go so great,
there weren't a lot of moments or emotional moments for me to capture. I did get a lot of really nice storytelling moments, but there weren't a ton of emotional moments. I already mentioned I don't love silk flowers. So that, just, it doesn't add anything. Whereas for me, when it's fresh florals, it just adds to all of the photos and everything and just makes things more lush. And it's a preference of mine. The groom portraits. I'd mentioned before how it was all open sun and there weren't a lot of options. I ended up doing the groom and the groomsmen, their portraits under a tree, and then with shadow in the background. A lot of the different places I was looking had like covered light, like open shade, but then the background was really bright, so it wouldn't have looked well. So we really didn't have a lot of options for those. I'm hoping Pat's okay with them. It was a really tricky situation. And then also I realized that other than the bustling, I wasn't in the house. So there weren't any of those moments where you're in the house with the family while everyone's getting ready, because the guys were mostly ready and then they were doing a lot of getting ready just outside. So that was something that I wasn't expecting. I was thinking like, oh, I'll be inside and there'll be family photos from when they were younger, whatever. So that wasn't there, but it's fine. Things that I want to do more of. I definitely liked carrying fewer lenses. So I have to figure out how to just have fewer lenses on my person. And my big thing is I'm always afraid that I am going to want something that I don't have with me. So a lot of times I'm thinking, oh, I won't need a wide angle lens. But what if something happens and it's like a great wide open shot? So then I throw it in my bag and I end up taking 6 or 7 lenses with me. I want to continue making sure to follow the bride and groom right after their ceremony and really sticking with them. The same way I like the photos that I get of the bride and her dad before they walk out. And it's like a nice tender moment where they're just kind of focused on the moment. I feel like right after the ceremony, when all that pressure is off, that's when the bride and groom are really excited. So rather than duplicate recessional photos, I want to make an effort to kind of just stick with them to capture those moments more. And then I realized that I didn't know who the father of the bride was in the beginning of the day. So I have to figure out how to just make sure I've been introduced to everybody and introduce myself to people. There were a lot of people and a lot of guys running around, and I was taking pictures of everybody, but later on I was like, I wish I'd known that was the father of the bride, because his wife wasn't there. So I don't know. I didn't place him as the father early enough. So that's something I have to make sure I'm doing. And then I shot too much of the day with a wide open aperture. And I think that's like my big takeaway. I have to shoot with a smaller aperture at times, because it's okay to not always be at like 2.8 or 1.8. And I know Cliff Maltner says that in one of his lighting videos where he's talking about like reception dancing and shooting at f4. And he's like, I know a lot of people will say you're not a professional photographer, but I'm here to say that I am. And other people have made that comment too. Lanny and Erica Mann have commented about that. So I think I have to just be mindful that I don't need to be wide open all the time. So I'm going to work on that. Overall though, the pictures, I wasn't surprised in either direction. I wasn't like really excited with how they came out compared to what I thought when I left, and I wasn't disappointed. So I feel like there are a lot of nice storytelling images that kind of tell the story of the day. I believe, I don't want to say Pat delivers all the images, but when I look at his galleries, he delivers a lot of images. So I know some photographers really call it down. So I try to make mention of events that I captured that may not seem significant when they're just kind of looking at the pictures, but were meaningful to the people there at the time. But I think Pat really does deliver a lot of them. So they'll have a lot of those pictures from the day getting ready. But nice photos. They turned out well. Everybody was nice. it was a really good day. It wasn't super exciting, and there wasn't like a ton of stuff that I'm like really excited to like share on social media or put in my portfolio, but I feel like there are really nice photographs of the day, and I think that they're going to be really happy. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Save, Delete, Dodge, and Burn, and I really appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you later.